little bit and it moves it here and moves it there. Those are burns. Okay? Now what else would these burns put Gemini in position for? To dock with 6A. So that's how they moved. That's how they got where they needed to go, was having these orbital burns. Have we had orbital burns before in the space program, getting from one place to another? No. No. Now, on December 15th, Gemini 6A launched into space under the command of Walter Schirra. You ever heard of him? What was he? Mercury 7 astronaut, yeah. So Walter Schirra commanded Gemini 6A, and it left on December 15th, 1965. So basically, they had been in space for how long before they docked? Almost the entire time, right? Okay. Well, Gemini 6A had to get in orbit because they got to be, in common ground. And they decided to rendezvous and dock on the 4th orbit of Gemini 6A. So Gemini 6A got up, and on the 4th orbit, they came together and rendezvoused. Okay? On Gemini 6A's 4th orbit. Now, I kind of fibbed to you a little bit, but I had to do it to get the point. Did they actually dock and hook up? No, what did they do? They rendezvoused and they got within 1 foot of each other, which proved that they could get close enough when the time came, as they continued this Gemini project to get ready for Apollo. They proved to themselves they could get close enough to make the dock. So they basically just rendezvoused. They didn't dock, but they got within 1 foot of each other, those hatches that they would need to dock to get the astronauts through at the time. Because they didn't have any docking ability. They didn't have a docking place. That's the point I'm making. They end up having to dock to get out of the moon, so they're just taking one step at a time. They'll have another mission that'll actually dock, but they just wanted to rendezvous and get close. Okay? You got to remember, this is 1965.
Do you know how much each of the missions have cost?
I do know they were expensive because President Kennedy, although publicly stated he was for it, was concerned about the cost. No question about it. And a lot of people thought we were kind of foolish to spend that kind of money doing that, but we had to keep up with the Russians. Okay? Now, as I mentioned, the 2 spacecrafts approached each other, and on the 4th orbit, Schirra placed Gemini 6A 1 foot from Gemini 7. Okay? Well, it was time to go to sleep for the night, so Gemini 6A made what they called a separation burn to get away from Gemini 7, and he separated out to 16 kilometers. So they slept 16 kilometers apart, so to speak, the 2 vessels. Okay? The reason they separated is because they didn't want what to happen in the middle of the night. Right. So after they rendezvoused and they separated, Gemini 6, Schirra got a little sleep, and then he re-entered the Earth and landed into the ocean. So 6A came up, 4th orbit rendezvoused, had a little separation, had a little sleep, down he went. Okay? Gemini 7 still in space. Now, if you think about this a little bit, what's probably happening, how many days do Borman and Lovell have left up there? 3, about 3 days. Now, they really weren't doing much. They were getting sick of the novelty of space flight. Both of them were kind of worn out by it. They had spent 11 days in space. They had 3 days left. They weren't doing anything other than drifting around the Earth because they were scheduled to come down on a certain date. And so they weren't doing much with their time. So Borman spent his time those last 3 days reading this fantastic novel by Mark Twain entitled Roughing It. That's what he did during the 3 days. And Lovell spent his time reading this novel by Walter Edmonds called Drums Along the Mohawk. So this is what they did the last 3 days. Borman, Lovell read these books. That's what they took up and read with them. Just for your information. We give you every bit of information possible in this class. Because I'll guarantee you didn't know that before you walked in. Okay, so again, Borman spent his time reading the book Roughing It by Mark Twain, and Lovell spent his time reading the book Drums Along the Mohawk by Walter Edmonds. Well, make a long story short, finally the last day the mission arrived. The men stored everything for re-entry. The mission went perfectly, and after 14 days in space, or approximately 14 days in space, Gemini 7 splashed down safely back to Earth. And the men were somewhat weakened by the trip, as you can imagine, spending, that many days in a car, front seat of a car, up in space. Would that tire you out maybe a little bit? You guys would ride buses back all the way from, Douglas or whatever, or girls that ride these trips and go, God, I can't take any more of this. I sat in my front seat from Billings, and I thought the last 10 miles my ADHD got out. My wife thought to leave me. Can you imagine being up there 14 days in space? So they were a little wore out, but they made it. Okay, now we're going to have a little fun here. And we're going to talk about 1966 at a glance. I kind of like these. We tell you about some weird things that happen, or interesting things happen in each month of the year of 1966. We'll have a little sports. We'll have all kinds of stuff here. So we'll see how it goes. We'll talk about January of 1966. And every year I get older and you stay the same age. And this used to be pretty exciting, this first thing I'm going to tell you in January, because it made sense to you. And maybe it will if you're movie watchers, but we'll see, okay? On January 17th of 1966, an American B-52 bomber collided with a fuel resupply plane in midair off the coast of Spain. So here's this B-52 bomber. Here comes a fuel supply plane that's going to refuel that B-52, and they collide, accidentally collide. So have you ever seen in the movies where they bring up a fuel plane and they fuel the other plane to run out of gas? Well, anyway, an American B-52 bomber collided with a fuel resupply plane in midair over the coast of Spain. And 8 of the 14 crew members were killed in the B-52. 8 of the 14 crew members were killed during that collision. The problem, bigger than that, was a hydrogen bomb, or H-bomb, which wasn't quite as powerful as the atomic bomb, but powerful, was dislodged from the bomber, and it fell into the Atlantic Ocean. So you've got a hydrogen bomb, which is not quite as bad as an atomic bomb, but it's bad. I mean, it's got radiation, it's a weapon. It falls out of the B-52 into the water off the coast of Spain. Now, what do you think the Pentagon did immediately when they got that news? They sent planes and soldiers to look for that bomb, to no avail. We'll get back to it.
So how many soldiers?
8 out of 14 were killed in the initial crash, and then that hydrogen bomb fell out of that B-52 into the ocean off the coast of Spain. What would be your first concern? Well, either it blows up or it cracked and you got radiation in the ocean. So right away the Pentagon sends ships, and they either go for a search on this thing and don't find it.
What
Yet.
day was
How do
it?
they not find it?
Yet. And we'll do another month they might find it, but we'll see. What was that?
What day was it?
The day, well, just January 17th is when this crash occurred. Keep that in mind because we're going to get back to that story. Okay? On February 15th, you ever heard of a guy by the name of Wilt Chamberlain? Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain, on February 15th, Wilt Chamberlain broke the NBA career scoring record.
February 15th.
February 15th, Wilt Chamberlain broke the NBA's career scoring record. Okay? He broke the record that belonged to this fella right here, Bob Pettit. Bob Pettit was the fella right here that had the record that Wilt Chamberlain broke. Right here, Bob Pettit. And Bob Pettit achieved the record in 11 seasons. And it took Chamberlain only 7 to break the record. And the record was 20,880 points. So on that particular date of February 15th, 1966, Wilt Chamberlain, if you don't know anything about Wilt Chamberlain, he was the first 7-footer in NBA history. Great big guy. And he broke the NBA's career scoring record, and he broke the record of Bob Pettit, which was 20,880. And he achieved that record Bob Pettit did in 11 seasons, and Chamberlain was so good, it only took him 7 seasons to break it. Now, we're going to see if you guys are sportsy in here at all. Does anybody in here know who as of today, who the leading scorer in NBA history is? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is correct. Okay, 38,387 points, but you don't have to write any of this down. Anybody know who's second? Carl Malone is correct. Okay, how many, anybody guess, anybody want to guess how many points he scored?
30.
Anybody?
More like 36,000.
36,928.
Wow.
Thanks, yeah. Ellie, you know who's third?
No.
How about you? Hey, Mary, you know who's third? Anybody know who's third? Present player, playing right now. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, 33,084. Who's fourth?
Michael.
Michael Jordan. Now, who's fifth? Wilt Chamberlain. That girl, Elliot. Whoa.
Hey, LeBron just passed it
Just,
for being
no, I know what I'm
20.
talking about. I got it written down here.
I was telling you something
I
different.
don't want to hear
Here.
it. These girls over here are on fire. So we got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar first, Karl Malone second, Kobe Bryant, present player third, Michael Jordan fourth, Wilt Chamberlain fifth. Who's sixth? Anybody know? Present player. You know, Mary?
Oh,
Anybody?
is it Kevin?
Nope. Mulhall, who is it? Who's sixth? Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah.
Okay, you ever heard of him? These girls are going, who the hell are these people?
Garnett's up there too.
How about seven? Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal is seven, Moses Malone is eight, Elvin Hayes is nine, Hakeem Olajuwon is 10. Those are your top 10. Who's the next current player that's 14th? Anybody know?
Is it Kevin Garnett?
Nope. Tim Duncan.
Oh.
Who's 15? Present player. Alex, you know? Aren't you pretty impressed with Alex knew what she knew?
Yeah.
These drama girls aren't just drama girls, man. These girls are sports wizards. Elliot, right? Okay, who's 15th current player? Paul Pierce. Kevin Garnett, 16th. LeBron James, 17th. Alex English, 18th. Reggie Miller, 19th. The logo is 20th. Jerry West. If you look at the NBA logo, it's actually a silhouette of Jerry West. He's 20th. 21st, Patrick Ewing. 22nd, Ray Allen. 23rd, Allen Iverson. 24th, Charles Barkley. And 25th, Vince Carter. There's your top 25. How about a hand for Elliot and Mohawk for knowing so much about the NBA? I think Mulhall was actually going to do a report on Karl Malone, weren't you? You could do it. She was going to do a drama. That's the benefit of Mulhall being second period with me doing an independent study because she gets to learn that stuff. Anyway, the significance is Wilt Chamberlain broke the NBA career scoring record on February 15, 1966. Back to January in March. Okay. On March 23rd, that lost hydrogen bomb was found by Navy diver Carl Brashear off the coast of Spain. Intact, no radiation leak. March 23rd, the lost H-bomb was found by Navy diver Carl Brashear. Now see, this is what irritates me about being so much getting older. Did that ring a bell with anybody? Don't write this down. I'm going to tell you the story and you tell me if it rings a bell. During the recovery operations, a line used for towing the bomb from the bottom of the ocean broke loose, causing a pipe to strike the leg of Brashear, who had since been brought to the surface and had changed back into military uniform. Brashear's left leg, just below the knee, was nearly sheared completely off, and he was evacuated to an Air Force base in Spain and then to a naval hospital in Virginia. Doctors convinced his doctors to amputate his leg so he could recover and train so he could remain as a Navy diver with a prosthetic leg. So he chose to cut his leg off because he wanted a fake leg, so to speak, so he could continue to die. It was Brashear's major goal in the military to earn the rank of Master Diver before his retirement. After much hard work, determination, opposition by top officers in the Navy who would rather have seen him retired, Brashear was reinstated. He retired from the Navy in 1979 as a Master Chief Petty Officer, E9, and a Master Diver. Brashear died of respiratory failure in Virginia on July 25, 2006 at the age of 76. His remarkable story is well documented in a movie entitled Men of Honor, starring Cuban Gooding Jr. Anybody seen that movie? It's a great movie, and what the movie's about, and if we get some free time, I might show it to you. It's about, he was black, African American, and nobody wanted him even in diving school. They did everything they could to keep him out of diving school. He fought like crazy against horrible discrimination. And I'm going to have to show you this because it's worth seeing. And he finally becomes a diver after every bit of opposition you can imagine. But he had the goal to be a master diver, which was the highest rank. And after finding this hydrogen bomb and being injured in doing so, he fought back, had his leg amputated, and everybody in the brass of the Navy fought against him to be a master diver. And they made him stand with a new diving suit, which was much heavier than the other one, and walk 10 paces to the other side of the room to pass his test, in which a normal human being would have had a horrible time doing that. And he stood with a prosthetic leg and walked the 10 steps. I'm going to show you that movie when we have some time. It's worth seeing. And if you want to watch it beforehand, you can probably get it on Netflix. It's called Men of Honor. It's a great story. But the hydrogen bomb is found by Carl Brashear off the coast of Spain. And it's an interesting story that led to the movie Men of Honor. Very good movie. Okay, April 1966. Jack Nicklaus. Age. He is a golfer. He became the first golfer in history to win 2 consecutive Masters golf championships. Back-to-back Masters champion. What do you get when you win the Masters golf championship besides a bunch of money? Not gold, green jacket. It's a big deal. Really a big deal. So he gets a green jacket 2 consecutive years. He's the first golfer in history to win consecutive Masters golf titles. Who's the most recent to win back-to-back? Anybody know? What's that? I don't think he won 2 in a row. Who won back-to-back? Last one back-to-back. Not very good anymore. Had too many prostitutes.
Was it Tiger?
Tiger Woods, yeah. Okay. May 28th, and we'll talk about this when we get into the Vietnam War. This is what happened on May 28th, 1966. About 350,000 students seized control of the administration offices at the University of Chicago in protest. On May 28, 1966, about 350,000 students seized control of the administration offices at the University of Chicago in protest. What are they protesting overall? What? The Vietnam War. But what they're really protesting specifically is they're protesting the college's cooperation with the Selective Service. And I'll explain that. They were protesting the college's cooperation with the Selective Service. We cooperate at this high school with the Selective Service. Does anybody know what the Selective Service is? When you become male and 18 years old, what are you supposed to do? Register for the Selective Service. Now, Taylor's getting to the point. She said register for the draft. When you sign up for the Selective Service, it puts you in preparation for the draft. In other words, they have your name and address and your birthday and all that kind of thing. Do you know, anybody in here know how you're, we haven't had a draft since Vietnam. Do you know how you're drafted? Anybody know the process behind that? Okay, anybody know that? Anybody, somebody say it? Okay, here's how you're drafted. You ever seen the lottery balls that they have now for the lottery? Yeah, they have ping pong balls and they have this big thing going, and each ping pong ball would be like January 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. So when they spin that thing, they grab out one of those balls. When's your birthday? Okay, they grab out March 13th. Everybody that's registered with the Selective Service now has the draft number 1 that has a birthday on March 13th. Then they draw out another ball. When's your birthday? February 9th is the second ball. Every single person that registered with the Selective Service now has a draft number of 2. And they would pull out maybe 15 of those. In the days of Vietnam, you did not want a draft number of 3 or 5, because when they drafted, they went 1 through however many they needed. So they drew 365 balls out of there, birthdays, and gave you a draft number. So you had a number from 1 to what? 365. And they'd say, okay, draft numbers 1 through 37, report to Vietnam. Or report to basic training because you're going to Vietnam. So that was an interesting thing. In order to get your name, they had to have you register with the Selective Service, and the University of Chicago was helping do that. We do that. If somebody, kid wants to register for the Selective Service, would we bring a recruiter in here to let them do that? Because by law, you have to do that, right? So they were upset at the University of Chicago. Imagine 350,000 students taking over the president's office, the financial aid office, the registrar's office, and you're going to see this later on. We're going to watch a video at the end of the school year called the 1960s, and it has all of this stuff we talked about. You're going to see it. Okay? So we'll stop with May, and we'll continue on tomorrow with June, July, August, September, etc. And then we're going to get into the Apollo space program. Okay? Good job today.